I was praying that he would come back to life.
5, 4.
Because he was still a person.
Stop CPR.
Did you ever get any training to recognize an inmate in medical distress?
No.
Can't breathe.
I thought he was safe in that damn jail.
And I am pretty angry about this. I don't like listening to mamas talk about their dead sons. They would have expected them to come out of jail alive, not dead.
That's State Representative Garnett Coleman.
This is the power of investigative reporting.
After a WFA investigation into deaths at county jails run by a private company, Coleman called a hearing in Austin. The company is LaSalle Corrections.
It's about the quality of the people who work in the jail.
Over the past few months, we've told you about people not convicted of any crimes dying in the county jails operated by LaSalle. Over and over, we found inexperienced and undertrained guards using too much force.
He's turning a different color.
And not asking for medical care in time. Our investigation found LaSalle is taking advantage of a loophole in state law, a law that actually allows guards to work under a temporary license with virtually no training for up to a year. Because of our reporting, that's about to change. Here is a first-hand account as to why.
There's a lot of stuff that's going wrong in that place.
Javier Marroquin worked for LaSalle at the Fannin County Jail for 5 months, the whole time under a temporary license.
Continue for 1 minute 30 seconds.
He was on duty this past November when he discovered inmate Paul Plecker in distress. Plecker had come into the jail with life-threatening medical problems and needed to be checked often.
Continue.
Marroquin filmed as a nurse performed CPR.
Come on, Plecker.
That's his voice you hear. Did Paul Plecker have to die?
No, he didn't.
Who failed him?
We all did.
Marroquin says the jail was understaffed that night. A supervisor pulled him to another part of the jail to help out. As a result, he couldn't check on Plecker like he was supposed to.
When I came back the next check, he was slouched over without life in him.
He filled out paperwork saying the checks had occurred when they hadn't. He was fired for falsification of records.
They kind of turned a blind eye to it, as long as the work is being done.
Marroquin wasn't the only one undertrained in falsifying jail checks. We discovered it's a recurring issue at LaSalle's jails. Morgan Angerbauer's case also involved falsified jail checks.
1, 2, 3, 4.
She was a lovely girl, full of spunk.
A diabetic, she died without insulin at another LaSalle jail in Bowie County.
How many SARS?
She's dead right there.
Two of the jailers connected to her death had temporary licenses. They had next to no training. LaSalle jailers connected to the cases of these two young fathers also had temporary licenses and minimal training.
Help!
Both fathers died in their cells.
Has anybody got a pulse on them?
Both were at the jail after being picked up for minor offenses. The families have sued LaSalle, partly blaming the company's lack of training for the death of their loved ones.
How many more are they going to be allowed to kill and get away with it?
We want to get our people trained.
We caught up with LaSalle's top executive last month in Austin, Mr. Cooper, to ask him why so many of his facilities operate with large numbers of undertrained jailers.
Because the law allows it. We're happy to follow the law. If they change the law, we'll follow the law.
LaSalle is not alone. We found dozens of Texas county-run jails also taking advantage of the loophole, having large numbers of guards with temporary licenses.
Get out of the car!
And then
I will light you up! Get out!
Wow.
Now!
Remember the case of Sandra Bland? She was the woman who died in her jail cell 3 days after a questionable traffic stop. Guess what? One of the last jailers to see her alive had been on the job just 3 months and had a temporary license.
You do something about problems, you don't just ignore them.
But good news. State Representative Coleman's bill is about to become law. It shrinks the loophole and requires jailers to enroll in state training within 90 days of hire. It also includes giving state jail regulators more authority over privately run jails.
Oh, it's all because of your reporting. I mean, I wouldn't have known. And because of your reporting, we were able to dig down in this, and we did it, very quickly.
In Dallas, I'm Tanya Iser.
They don't really care too much about the inmates.
She was a lovely girl, full of spunk.
Begin CPR now. 1, 2, 3.
She was way too young to die.
And just because they're in jail doesn't mean they're dogs. He still tells me, is my daddy coming to get me? And I have to tell him no. He knows he's in heaven.
People are dying and they shouldn't be dying.
You just listened to the voices of those who say a company called LaSalle Corrections ignored pleas for medical attention. All 3 of these people died in jails run by LaSalle, a private for-profit company.
This is a company that puts profit over human life.
Lance Lowry has spent decades working in Texas prisons.
Should jails or prisons ever be privatized?
Never. If you have to privatize a jail to make it more efficient, then the people that are operating that and the county leadership need to be fired.
All 3 of the families have filed lawsuits demanding LaSalle be held accountable for their deaths. We asked the company repeatedly for an interview. They never called us back. In their responses to the lawsuits, LaSalle denies any wrongdoing.
Come on, let's go. Good job.
Kick it to me!
Now let's tell you about the first of those 3 inmates.
That's my daddy in heaven.
Ronald Beasley.
We were Jesus.
He was an awesome dad, even though he was only with me for 16 months. He was awesome.
For days, Beasley repeatedly told LaSalle staff at the Johnson County Jail he was having chest pain. It was hard to breathe. He'd been in a DWI crash about 2 weeks earlier in 2015.
He'd been telling them for a week that something wasn't right.
His wife talked to a jail official in person,
and they didn't do anything about it.
Beasley was dead the next day.
It was senseless because we're talking antibiotics is all he needed.
She's right. An autopsy showed he died from infectious complications resulting from a chest fracture. Beasley wasn't the only case of alleged medical neglect.
She had such natural beauty.
God, her eyes were so beautiful.
Morgan Angerbauer, like many teens, experimented with drugs. She was booked into the Bowie County Jail run by LaSalle on June 28, 2016.
At the time she went in, she was clean.
Morgan was a diabetic, and without insulin, she would die.
No one checked her for 13 hours.
Morgan's mother wants you to see this video of the last moments of her daughter's life. She was just shy of turning 21.
I need SARS.
Former LaSalle jailer Mason Cleghorn saw it all.
Go get that IUD.
He's the one holding her head.
Continue for 1 minute 30 seconds.
He's speaking out for the first time at the request of Morgan's mom.
You watched the video, it could have been prevented.
They've become friends since Morgan died.
It's hard sitting here right now. That's my baby. She's dead right there.
Morgan's autopsy showed she had no illegal drugs in her system.
What I've learned with up there's a lot of people that play possum.
In police interviews, the nurse admitted she refused Morgan's request to go to medical.
I told her no, because that's not how it works.
She basically let Morgan die.
The nurse was later convicted of negligent homicide. 1 year earlier, same jail, a different tragedy.
Why should people care about Michael Sabby?
He was a human being, a father, a husband, a brother.
Michael Sabby was booked into LaSalle's Bowie County Jail on a misdemeanor. Sabby told the staff he had heart problems, diabetes, and asthma.
Everybody knew he needed medication.
Eric Hyped represents Sabby's widow. Instead of helping Sabby, LaSalle guards wrote him up, accusing him of faking his illness.
I can't breathe, honey. Please.
In these jail videos, you hear Sabby repeatedly say, "I can't breathe." A guard pepper sprays him. Remember, Sabby has asthma. Guards take him to the nurse.
Her exam literally lasted less than 1 minute.
Okay.
Instead of medicine, LaSalle jailers give him a shower. They take him back to his cell, where they leave him.
The way that they operated this particular jail is absolutely deplorable.
About 12 hours later, he's found dead of a heart attack.
There was supposed to be a corrections officer checking on him every 30 minutes, but that didn't happen.
How do we know that didn't happen?
Because we have video proof that it didn't happen. The officer documented that it happened every 30 minutes, but that was a fabrication of government records.
What he just said is important. Over and over, investigators have found LaSalle guards saying that they had checked on prisoners when they hadn't. The LaSalle guard in Sabby's case testified in a deposition that LaSalle trained her to write down that checks were done even when they hadn't been done. Remember Morgan Angerbauer? LaSalle's own records show that jailers also falsified paperwork in her case.
Situations like that, those are of grave concern.
Brandon Wood is the top county jail regulator in the state of Texas.
LaSalle and some of their facilities have had continued non-compliance issues.
In case you still think, who cares? These are just inmates.
They're people, and yes, they're in jail, and and yes, they've done things wrong.
It could be anyone that this happens to, and if not you, it could be someone you love.
We all make mistakes in life, but no one has the right to take another person's life. No one has that right.
These deaths are preventable. All it takes is training.
It was a horrible thing. They took someone that was bigger than life and meant so much to us.
Can't breathe.
I thought he was safe in that damn jail.
Still resisting.
It's upsetting to hear somebody that you clearly love beg for his life.
Andy DeBusk's life ended inside a jail run by LaSalle Corrections. His is one of a series of troubling deaths at LaSalle's jails, a for-profit company operating in Texas.
I normally wipe off the headstone, rub his face like he's here.
DeBusk's family readily acknowledges Andy struggled with drugs and alcohol.
And we say that we love you.
But to them, he was a dad who went to ball games. 1.5? And more than anything,
2.5. Do it.
he loved making his family smile.
This is a picture on Easter. He was always an Easter bunny. He cared enough for our family to put on the costume and everything and make everyone happy.
In 2016, DeBusk's family was home opening Christmas presents when the call came.
Nothing will ever bring Peyton's dad back or my son.
DeBusk's family wants you to see Andy's final moments filmed at the Parker County Jail.
Help!
He was in on an assault charge.
I can't breathe.
He's been pepper sprayed. Guards carry him down the hall in a hog-tie position to a padded cell.
He's turning a different color.
His face is purple and gray, and look how they've left him laying, even though the company's own policy says inmates shall never be placed face down.
Clear out.
Guards leave him in his cell.
Are they calling 911?
And then 5 minutes later,
Has anybody got a pulse on him?
an autopsy concluded that the physical force played a role in his death.
They're supposed to be responsible for people's lives.
There's clearly a lack of training. They have no idea what they were doing.
Lance Lowry is a jail expert.
Both the officers have their knees in his back. That's a big no-no.
He pointed out problems in the videos.
Stop moving!
When a person's not able to get air, they're going to be combative. He's not faking anything. This is amateur hour when it comes to correctional practices.
Amateur hour indeed. The state says no training is required to start working in a jail. None. Wait till you see what our investigation found next. We told you about the death of an inmate in the Parker County Jail. It's run by LaSalle Corrections, a private for-profit company. The question now, is this company cutting corners on the training of its guards? Danielle Cacho is a former LaSalle jailer.
They have a revolving door of corrections officers.
In addition to Parker County, LaSalle runs the county jails in Johnson and Bowie counties. News 8 found a third or more of LaSalle's guards working in those jails are brand new, just hired in 2018.
They have 18-year-olds that this is the first job they've ever done being corrections officers.
This guard right here, he'd been on the job just 2 months. He had no prior experience working in jails. We found LaSalle is taking advantage of a state rule that allows jailers to work under temporary licenses for up to a year, with no training required. In Parker County, 26% have these temporary licenses. At Bowie County, it's 31%. And at Johnson County, it's almost half of the jailers. By comparison, less than 1% of guards in the Dallas, Tarrant, and Kaufman County jails have temporary licenses.
You're working with people every day who are not trained.
This is a former Parker County jailer. She asked that we not show her face.
You've worked in other correctional facilities.
Yes.
How does this differ?
Well, the other facilities that I've worked in, their training programs are very structured. You go through training before you ever walk into the facility.
Last year, regulators found LaSalle's Parker County Jail reported numerous false training hours to the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement.
Were you ever asked to say that training had occurred when it didn't occur?
Yes, on more than one occasion.
Paul Lehman is head of training for the Dallas County Sheriff's Office.
What happens when you skimp on training?
You're sending people in to do a task that they're not prepared to accomplish, and you're putting themselves in danger.
The Dallas County new guards complete a month-long academy and 6 months of on-the-job training. They do not work unsupervised until they get a state license.
It's not fair to the jailers, and it's not fair to any of the other stakeholders to put people who are ill-prepared for what you're asking them to do.
There is a family who misses you and finds time long since you went. We think of you daily and hourly, but try to be brave and content.
DeBusk's family is now suing LaSalle, saying the company's failure to train its guards cost him his life.
How many more are they going to be allowed to kill and get away with it?
LaSalle did not respond to repeated requests for comment.
Everybody else is going to go on with their lives, but this is something that we'll never forget.
Tanya Iser, Channel 8 News.